Disney has been embroiled in controversy recently over its attempts to adapt traditional fairy tales for contemporary audiences. The company's live-action remakes have frequently elicited conflicting reactions, particularly as they attempt to navigate complex social landscapes, inclusivity initiatives, and shifting cultural values. One of the most recent hotspots in this ongoing debate concerns the upcoming live-action remake of Snow White, specifically with regard to actress Rachel Zegler, who plays the title role. Zegler is a vocal supporter of progressive social issues, and she found herself in the spotlight after her remarks about the movie caused a lot of backlash. This eventually led to rumors that Disney had forced Zegler to issue an apology, a move that highlights the complex relationship between artistic vision and public opinion and corporate image. Rachel Zegler's casting was a symbolic decision. Rising talent Rachel Zegler, who became well known for playing Maria in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story 2021, was chosen to play Snow. Casting a Latina actress to portray an iconic, traditionally white character like Snow White was hailed by many as a progressive move, showcasing Disney's dedication to diversity and inclusivity. For some, this decision represented a fresh approach, offering underrepresented communities a chance to see themselves reflected in timeless stories. The choice of Rachel Zegler, a Colombian-American actress, to step into this legendary role seemed to symbolize a new era for Disney, one that embraces change and challenges the status quo of its classic characters. However, not everyone embraced this bold shift. Traditionalists, particularly die-hard Disney fans, expressed their displeasure, feeling that the studio had strayed too far from the legacy of its original animated characters. For them, Snow White is more than just a fairy tale. She's a symbol of nostalgia and a connection to a past era of storytelling. Some critics argued that altering her ethnicity was an unnecessary departure from Disney's core values, creating a sharp divide between those who welcomed this change and those who felt alienated by it. Disney's decision, though controversial, is part of a broader push to reimagine its classic tales through a more inclusive lens. The move to cast Zegler highlights the entertainment giant's commitment to providing diverse representation in its films, allowing audiences of all backgrounds to feel seen in the stories they cherish. While this change may have sparked debate, it undeniably underscores the evolving landscape of Hollywood, where inclusivity is becoming a driving force in shaping the future of beloved narratives. The source material Snow White, as written by the brothers Grimm and immortalized by Disney's first full-length animated film, was characterized by her fair-skinned black hair and red lips, a literal interpretation of the fairest of them all, while some viewed Zegler's casting as a positive reflection of societal change. Others saw it as an unnecessary departure from the character's roots, igniting debates. The controversy surrounding Disney's live-action Snow White remake escalated when actress Rachel Zegler, who plays the lead role, shared her perspectives on the classic story during various interviews and social media posts. It became clear that Zegler's interpretation of Snow White was going to deviate significantly from the original, sparking a heated debate about Disney's creative direction and the broader trend of woke storytelling in Hollywood. At the heart of the issue was Zegler's assertion that her version of Snow White would be far from the damsel in distress depicted in the 1937 animated film. "It's no longer 1937, we're not doing that damsel in distress thing," Zegler remarked in one interview, signaling a clear departure from the traditional narrative. She emphasized that this new Snow White would be more empowered, independent, and self-reliant, a woman who didn't need a prince to save her or determine her fate. For Zegler and those in support of modernizing Disney's classic characters, this approach reflected progressive values that resonated with contemporary audiences. However, it also alienated a large portion of the fan base, who felt that this reinterpretation was a blatant disregard for what made Snow White iconic in the first place. Critics of Zegler's comments argued that Disney's effort to modernize Snow White and inject feminist themes into the story was not just an attempt to update the character for a new generation, but a dismissal of the original film's values. Snow White, they contended, was a character whose strength lay in her kindness, resilience, and inner beauty, qualities that transcended time and inspired generations of viewers. By shifting the narrative to focus on empowerment through independence from a male savior, some fans felt that Disney was undermining the timelessness of these virtues. Instead, they viewed it as a reflection of Hollywood's increasing tendency to reinterpret beloved characters and stories through the lens of contemporary sociopolitical ideologies. Zegler's remarks were seen as emblematic of a broader trend in the entertainment industry, where many cherished stories are being adapted or reimagined to fit modern sensibilities. While some celebrate this as progress, others argue that it sacrifices the core essence of the original works. In the case of Snow White, the 1937 film is widely regarded as a masterpiece of animation and storytelling, with its themes of love, hope, and perseverance resonating deeply with audiences for decades. To many, Zegler's dismissal of the damsel in distress trope came across as a fundamental misunderstanding of Snow White's character. Rather than simply waiting for a prince, they pointed out, Snow White embodied grace and optimism, even in the face of adversity. The backlash to Zegler's comments was swift and intense. Social media, in particular, became a battleground for critics and supporters of the film. Hashtags like #NotMeSnowWhite began trending on platforms like Twitter, with many fans calling for Disney to rethink its approach to the remake. Those who opposed the direction of the film argued that the original story was being sacrificed for the sake of a forced feminist narrative that felt disingenuous to the character's core identity. They contended that Disney, in an effort to appear woke, was prioritizing virtue signaling over quality storytelling, and that this trend was eroding the magic and nostalgia that had made Disney's films so beloved in the first place. Others saw Zegler's remarks as part of a larger cultural battle in which traditional values and classic storytelling were being rewritten to align with modern ideologies. Besides the film's content, this divide was about Hollywood's shift from timeless storytelling to socio-political messaging. To many fans, the controversy surrounding Snow White was not an isolated incident, but a symptom of a broader trend in which beloved characters and narratives were being reinterpreted to fit contemporary standards, often at the expense of the original work's essence. Disney found itself in a difficult position amid the growing uproar. The entertainment giant has been attempting to walk a fine line for years, balancing its desire to modernize its stories with the need to preserve the legacy and nostalgia that have endeared Disney to audiences for generations. In recent years, Disney has made a concerted effort to introduce more progressive themes into its films, promoting diversity, inclusion, and empowerment, particularly for its female characters. However, these efforts have often been met with criticism from fans who feel that the company is losing sight of the core values that made its classic films timeless. For Disney, the challenge was clear: how to update its beloved characters for a modern audience without alienating its core fan base. The live-action Snow White remake is just one example of the broader dilemma facing the company. On the one hand, there is a growing demand for films that reflect the values and sensibilities of today's audiences, particularly when it comes to issues like gender equality and empowerment. On the other hand, there is a deep-seated attachment to the original stories and characters that have become cultural touchstones for millions of people around the world. In the case of Snow White, Disney had to grapple with the reality that any deviation from the original story would likely be met with resistance from a vocal portion of the fan base. At the same time, sticking too closely to the original could risk alienating a new generation of viewers who might see the traditional narrative as outdated or irrelevant. This delicate balancing act is one that Disney has faced with many of its recent live-action remakes, from The Little Mermaid to Mulan, and it is a challenge that will likely continue to shape the company's approach to storytelling in the years to come. Ultimately, the controversy surrounding Rachel Zegler's comments and the live-action Snow White remake speaks to the broader cultural debate over how classic stories should be adapted for modern audiences. While some see these changes as necessary to keep these tales relevant, others view them as unnecessary revisions that compromise the original work's integrity. For Disney, the task of navigating this divide is a complex one, as it seeks to honor its past while also embracing the future. In doing so, the company must find a way to ensure that its stories continue to resonate with both new and longtime fans alike. Audiences for decades, this particular controversy threatened to alienate both progressive audiences who supported Zegler's interpretation and traditionalists who felt the remake was straying too far from its roots. Reports began to surface that Disney was concerned about the negative attention Zegler's remarks were generating, the studio already navigating public relations challenges. With other recent projects like the live-action The Little Mermaid and its portrayal of Ariel stirring public debate, Disney was wary of allowing another divisive narrative to damage its brand. Rumors soon surfaced that Disney had pressured Rachel Zegler to issue an apology in order to quell the controversy surrounding her comments and restore some degree of public favor. Zegler's remarks had been seen by some as dismissive of the original Snow White film, sparking backlash from fans who felt protective of Disney's classic legacy. Zegler did eventually issue a public apology, but the sincerity of her statement was questioned by many. In her apology, Zegler expressed regret if her comments had been perceived as dismissive of the original Snow White and reassured fans that she had immense respect for Disney's legacy. Despite this, some viewed the apology as a corporate-mandated move, crafted more to smooth over negative press than as a reflection of her true feelings. The optics of the situation were complicated, painting a picture of a young actress caught between her personal progressive ideals and the demands of a global entertainment giant focused on its bottom line. Zegler, a rising star with her career just beginning to soar, was in a precarious position. The controversy risked not only damaging her public image but also alienating key audiences. On one hand, progressives who had initially supported her bold stance felt that the apology was a capitulation to corporate pressure. On the other hand, traditionalists were already upset by what they saw as a disrespect for Disney's time-honored classics, viewing her apology as too little, too late. This incident highlights the increasing tension young stars face in the entertainment industry, where personal beliefs and corporate interests often collide. Zegler's situation serves as a reminder that in today's climate, navigating public controversies can be a delicate balancing act. The need to appease various stakeholders, from fans to corporate executives, places immense pressure on actors, especially those at the beginning of their careers. In the case of Zegler, the incident sparked ongoing debates about authenticity, corporate influence, and the challenges of staying true to one's values in an industry so deeply intertwined with public perception. Rachel Zegler's involvement in the Snow White controversy reflects a deeper, ongoing cultural battle between tradition and modernity, particularly in Hollywood. On one side of the debate are those who believe that classic stories should evolve to reflect contemporary values, especially regarding issues like representation and gender roles. These individuals argue that films should be reinterpreted to empower marginalized groups and ensure that the media reflects the diversity of today's society. Another view is that these reinterpretations compromise the timeless, universal qualities that made these stories so beloved. For them, modern adaptations risk diluting the original magic and values that have been cherished by generations. Disney, one of the world's most influential entertainment companies, has found itself at the heart of this cultural clash. The company's efforts to balance tradition with progressive values have frequently been met with criticism from both sides. Some argue that Disney hasn't gone far enough in embracing diversity, saying its gestures toward progress are superficial or inconsistent. Others feel Disney has strayed too far from its roots by changing the core elements of iconic characters and narratives, thereby losing the essence that made them timeless. The Snow White controversy and Zegler's involvement illustrate how difficult it can be for Disney to navigate these competing pressures. Zegler's casting as Snow White, along with her outspoken comments about updating the character to be more empowered, sparked debate among both fans and critics. For some, her modern take on Snow White represents progress, signaling the need for stronger female characters who are not defined by traditional gender roles. For others, it feels like a betrayal of the original fairy tale's charm and values, leaving them disappointed in what they see as a forced shift toward political correctness. As the entertainment industry continues to grapple with these tensions, Disney is often seen as a battleground for the broader cultural war between honoring the past and pushing toward the future. The situation surrounding Zegler's casting, her remarks, and the ensuing backlash exemplify how difficult it is to strike a balance that pleases everyone in an era where audiences are deeply divided over the direction of modern storytelling. Characters is a response to legitimate concerns about representation in media. However, the backlash suggests that for many fans there is a line where reimagination turns into eraser of what they love about the original stories. The future of Disney's live-action remakes as Disney continues its trend of live-action remakes, the Snow White saga offers important lessons. Disney, as a cultural giant, faces a delicate balancing act when it comes to updating its most treasured properties for modern audiences. The company's legacy is built on timeless stories beloved by generations, yet the demand for contemporary relevance means that these classics are often revisited, reimagined, and retold. As Disney seeks to stay culturally relevant, its approach to these stories can spark controversy, as seen in the case of Rachel Zegler's comments about Snow White. While efforts to modernize these tales are likely to continue, the backlash surrounding Zegler's remarks underscores the importance of respecting the source material and recognizing the deep emotional connection fans have with these classics. The Snow White controversy highlights the complex dynamics at play when reinterpreting classic stories for a modern audience. On one hand, there is a growing demand for greater diversity, empowerment, and progressive values in media, particularly with respect to gender roles and representation. This push for change resonates with audiences who feel that older narratives, many of which reflect outdated social norms, no longer align with the values of today. Zegler's comments about transforming Snow White into a more empowered character who isn't defined by waiting for a prince reflect this modern perspective. On the other hand, there is a strong attachment to the original versions of these tales, which many fans consider part of their cultural heritage. For these fans, Snow White is not just another story, but a symbol of childhood nostalgia and Disney's rich storytelling tradition. They feel that altering these stories too much diminishes their timeless appeal, and there's a sense that certain changes, especially when driven by political or social agendas, may compromise the essence of what made these tales magical in the first place. Disney's challenge, therefore, is navigating between these two competing desires, honoring its progressive audience who seeks more inclusive and updated storytelling, and its more traditional fan base, who values the timeless qualities of the originals. The company's approach to this balancing act will play a crucial role in determining the future success of its brand. If Disney leans too far into modernization without honoring the emotional connections fans have with these stories, it risks alienating a significant portion of its audience. Conversely, if it fails to evolve with the times, it could be seen as out of touch with the demands for diversity and empowerment in modern media. In recent years, Disney has found itself in the middle of numerous debates surrounding its adaptations of classic tales, from the live-action The Little Mermaid to Beauty and the Beast. Each reinterpretation has been met with both praise and criticism as the company tries to balance tradition with progress. The backlash to Zegler's comments about Snow White serves as a reminder that fans care deeply about these stories, not just for their entertainment value but for the personal and cultural significance they hold. As Disney moves forward, it will need to carefully consider how it approaches future projects, respecting the integrity of its classic tales while finding ways to update them for modern audiences will be key to maintaining its broad appeal. The company's ability to walk this tightrope will determine its ongoing success as it continues to face scrutiny from all sides. With its massive cultural influence, Disney's decisions will shape the future of how beloved stories are told and retold, reflecting not just the company's vision, but the shifting values of society itself. Of its upcoming endeavors, as well as its larger cultural legacy for Rachel Zegler when the experience is eventually released, her portrayal of Snow White will surely be examined through the lens of both her own words and the larger cultural conversation she unintentionally sparked. The experience is a cautionary tale about the fine line actors must walk when taking on roles with decades of emotional baggage.